Support comes from Hampton Roads Community Foundation, carrying out your charitable wishes forever, whether it's helping shelter animals, feeding the homeless, enhancing the arts, or supporting students. Learn more at leaveabequest.org.
Hello, everyone. I'm Barbara Hamley. Another View is coming to you live from Edenton, North Carolina. We're here today to talk about the controversy that has divided the town. Should the Confederate statue that stands in front of the town council chambers and the Edenton Visitor Center be moved to a new location or stay where it is? The ongoing debate has resulted in protests and a lawsuit. We're here to examine both sides of the issue in front of our live audience. What to do with the Confederate statue? That's next on Another View. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after this national, regional, and local news from NPR and WHRO News.
Discussing today's topics from an African-American perspective, this is Another View.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Another View. We're live in Edenton, North Carolina today. This idyllic town is located just off U.S. Highway 17 on the north side of the Albemarle Sound in northeastern North Carolina. And we're making history today on Another View because this is our first broadcast outside of Virginia.
All right.
So thank you all so much for being here today. We are really happy. And a very special thank you to Denise Barnes. She is the owner of this beautiful location where we are. It's called The Venue on Water Street. And we really appreciate you allowing us to do our show from here. So thank you very, very much. So this is a beautiful, peaceful town, but there is a controversy over the Confederate statue that stands in the middle of Broad Street in downtown Edenton. So the question before the town is, should it stay put or be moved to another location? It's been in its current location since 1961. So why is it an issue now? Here to talk about it with us is Reverend John Shannon. He is pastor of Providence Missionary Baptist Church and a member of the Edenton Human Relations Commission. Hello, Reverend. How are you?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. And Susan Ingalls. Did I say that right, Susan? Great. Founder and owner of From the Mountain, a company that has worked with artisans around the world to get their skills and products to new markets. Now, Susan is a member of the Reconciliation Group of Edenton United Methodist Church and the Move the Monument Coalition Edenton Shawan. How are you, Susan?
Just fine. Glad to be here.
Thank you so much for being with us. So the first time Another View became aware of or actually interacted with some folks from Edenton was with the Reconciliation Group, and that was back in 2017 when we did a show on what you all were doing here to mend race relations. So I'm going to start with you, Susan. Can you give us a real quick kind of rundown from that point, or from, say, 2020, once George Floyd happened, through where we are today? What got us to this issue of the statue?
Yes, I can. And I really want to go further back than that, but so I will say that the statue was erected in 1909 by the United Daughters of the Confederacy, moved from the location where they put it to its current location in 1961 in response.
And I'm going to go into detail about that a little bit later. Okay. So just give us the rest of it, and we'll come back to that, because I think that's a very important point.
So in the summer of 2020, a citizen gathered us for a vigil at the base of the statue, and we had a silent vigil at the base of the statue that summer on Juneteenth. And following that silent vigil continued and was accompanied by marching protests to protest the presence there. Why was that important? Because in the summer of 2021, the Human Relations Commission, which had already been formed earlier, gave their recommendation of what to do with the statue, where to move it to a very appropriate location, a piece of town-owned property that is on 6th Street and is actually property that used to be a plantation owned by the Bembry family, which sent 2 sons to the Confederacy when this area's first company was gotten up. One of the reasons it would be a good place for it to be there. The Human Relations Commission made that recommendation, and the town said thank you very much and did not act on it. Some months later, the town decided that they would rather offer it to the county.
Chowan County.
For Chowan County to put in their Veterans Memorial Park, where it would incidentally be the only statue to an enemy of U.S. veterans, but that was the idea. And the county thought about it for a while and then said, no, thank you. And that was in last November or so. And then in last December or so, the UDC, who had lost ownership of the statue back in 1961, sued for it to stay put.
Okay, now we asked for representation from the North Carolina Division United Daughters of the Confederacy, the North Carolina Division Sons of Confederate Veterans, and the Colonel William F. Martin Camp 1521 of the Sons of Confederate Veterans, which is a local unit from the Confederate Veterans Camp near Edenton, to be with us on the show. As they are in litigation against the town of Edenton, they opted to have their attorney, Ed Phillips, speak for them. Now, he is located in Tennessee, and his schedule would not allow him to be with us in person. So Another View producer, Lisa Godley, interviewed him earlier this week, which we will share with you during this broadcast. So I want to go to his first sound, which is talking about what the people who want the statue to stay, what they really want.
The monument, according to the town of Edenton, belongs to them.
Okay.
And at one point, before the litigation ensued, the town of Edenton told Chowan County, this is your monument, take this off our hands and move it. And that didn't go anywhere. So I think in this situation, it's clear that it's a publicly owned monument on public property. The question is which entity out of the two owns it, I suppose, on some level. But I think the town of Edenton has basically said they do, and they have the authority to move it. But the question is, some of these places they're suggesting moving it to, if I remember correctly, was near a wastewater treatment facility. You know, the argument is, well, is that a place of equal prominence as to its current location? And the answer on that one, certainly not. Other places, you know, it's a fight under the statute, what it means and what that could possibly be to reasonable people.
Okay. Where would your client, well, obviously your client wants it to stay where it is, but have they come up with any locations that would be appeasing to your clients?
You know, we had discussed that, and I really can't go into some of that client confidential information. However, I can say that at this point in the litigation, the choices they've seen or have heard being bandied about, they do not believe any of those really hit the mark in terms of a place of equal prominence. So I think that's one of the big issues for them.
John, you're on the Human Relations Commission. This commission was set up, first of all, for what reason? Because it's fairly new, is it not?
Yeah, it's fairly new, and we were set up to, consider the town of Edenton and see what we could do to enhance or make the relationships better. And so we were, it was about 26 of us. We was all vetted, and then we were selected, and it was 13 of us. And what we did was we did the research. We went to Hope Plantation. We went to the library. We went to looked at some documentaries together. We read some books about the history. We went back to the newspapers in Edenton about the statue, how it got moved from the courthouse to where it's at this point. And also the group, the Human Relations Commission, we took and put the things that we thought were things that would make the relationships better in Edenton. We kind of prioritized them, and the statue came up to the top. And so we dealt with it. I think it was about 11 or 12 months. We did all of the research. We had a boat, and the boat came up that we would that it should be relocated or taken down. Mm-hmm. And so after we had the town council know what our thoughts was about it, then they said to us that we needed to find out where to put it at. And so our position was that, we weren't, we didn't have the understanding to where it should be put at, but our task was to come up with a solution. And our solution was to take it down or relocate it. And so that's how we got to the place where
so that's how you got there.
Yes.
So Susan, since you're kind of the town historian a little bit, but 1961, when the statue was moved from its original location, which I understand was in front of the courthouse, mm-hmm. Is that correct?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Where did it? Why was it moved from there to downtown?
Mm-hmm. It was moved from in front of the old courthouse, which is historic, been in use since colonial times, where it, like all the other statues put up in that era of the early 20th century, right. It was moved from there to the foot of Broad Street in 1961 when our local civil rights movement was budding. And it was moved in defiance of that budding civil rights movement. Now, it was moved, the way it happened involved the county commissioners and the Women's Club, which is involved in beautification of our town. And the county commissioners said to the Women's Club, "Don't you want to beautify the green?" And they did. And don't you want to beautify the waterfront, which was totally commercial at that point. There was, the Barker House was already in its current location, but it was a commercial waterfront. Don't you want to beautify the waterfront? So they moved the statue from the green to the foot of Broad Street, and they planted the sycamore trees that are currently on the green and did other landscaping of the green at that time, and put the statue where it is as it is now.
But John, that was during the civil rights movement also.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So how did the African American community react to the moving of the statue? Do you know?
Okay, well, I don't exactly know because I'm from Elizabeth City. I've been pastoring here for over 20 years, but we did come up with the newspaper article, and what happened, and matter of fact, one of the members of my church that did live here, he knew that they was moving it because it was a crane in Edenton, a crane with a boom sticking up in the air, and so you couldn't miss it. And so they all came down here, but it was something that was put together that night, and the next day, it was in the paper. I mean, it was where it's at now. And the other part of
hours.
Right, and the other part of the article said that they did not ask the people because they felt like it was going to be a lot of discussion about it, and so the council people or town council commissioners, whoever was involved, they just decided to just move it without asking anybody where to move it, can we move it, should we move it. Yeah.
Susan, what's the racial makeup of Edenton?
In Chowan County in all, and about half of our citizens live in the town and half in the county, and it's about 60% black and 40% white now.
And has there always been a history of contention between the two groups, or have people, does it kind of ebb and flow, or what?
There have been times of serious contention. There have been times of serious contention. There have this area was founded as the cradle of the colony in its remoteness with high ideals, to be very egalitarian. My ancestors who were Quaker came here for religious freedom. The indigenous people had relatively more respect here than in some places. There were lots of free blacks, and being south of the Dismal Swamp, we were hard to get to. Now, in the second half of the 18th century, that began to change, and with the Crown's interest in the resources of this area, this strong a sense of white supremacy began to emerge, and that has changed over the decades and centuries, but it persists. It persists. That yeah.
So, John, what is the frustration of the, or is there frustration, I should ask, with the commission itself in terms of the amount of time it's taking for a decision to be made about moving the statue or not?
Oh, sure. It's frustration because it seems that, it's like it belongs to the commissioners. They say, no, it belongs to the town. And then the town councilman, in that it's supposed to be theirs now or theirs to deal with. And they're telling us, one thing after another, resolutions of intent. And then when you go to a meeting, you get, 30 seconds of whatever they met from the month before about what they're going to do with it. And there's seems like there's nobody who's willing to really say what we're trying to do. I believe that the people in the town is like kind of fed up with, let's have some transparency. What are y'all doing? Let us be a part of, what we're going to do. And also, the Human Resources Commission, they took a lot of time, checking us out and making sure that we would be the group to take care of this. We did our due diligence, getting trained, getting, as much as we could about what was going on. And matter of fact, the Human Resources Commission, we found out each other personally, and we had to move that out the way because we was put together to deal with making relationships better in Edenton. And so we did all those kind of things, but it just seems to be that the people that can do something about it now, it's like what we have said once or twice, is like they just, kind of kicking the can down the road, taking their time. And,
What do you, and this question is to both of you, what do you say to people who say you want to remove the statue because you want to erase history, because you want to get rid of what happened in terms of the Confederacy? How do you respond to that? Okay. I'll start with you, John.
Okay, well, we were there, protesting early on when we started. And I got to say, Andrea, she was there by that statue one time by herself after we did a Juneteenth celebration. I stopped by to see what was going on, and that kind of lit the fire about what we're doing. But we had a young man to come, and he told us, that he was a history teacher, and he had been teaching history for 30 years. But he sat there and listened at some of the people in our group for about 25 or 30 seconds, and they had him to know that just because you've been teaching history for 30 years doesn't mean that you've been teaching it right. And so we gave him a history lesson right there to know that, the history that's being taught is not the correct history.
And what history is that?
In that the stature and what it's about, it has to do with slavery, oppression, white supremacy. When you do the history on it, when the statues came up, where it was put at, across this country, it was about keeping black people, if you will, in their place. That's we've seen it. I've seen it. I was in the military. I stayed in the military for 4 years. I went to 6 or 7 different countries. I've been to over 1/3 of the states right here in North Carolina, and I have experienced racism. I went to segregated schools. 9th grade, we got integrated, and I felt it, and I see it, right here in this city, in this town. And a lot of people, say, like I said, I've been serving this church for like 18 years, and a lot of people in this town feel as though, they're not looked at as being equal to others. Let me share this one other thing before I move on. In that, I'm a life member of the NAACP, but I'm from Pasquotank County. But I was asked to go and speak to the Board of Education, on behalf of a teacher in this town, because the people in this town, they weren't willing to put their necks out there, to do it. And so it's a lot of things that need to be worked out in this town.
Okay. Susan, same question to you. Those that say you're trying to erase history.
History is our bread and butter here in Edenton.
Yeah.
We would not erase it. What we have displayed publicly says something about our current values. And having this symbol of white supremacy erected as such, moved as such to its current location, having it front and center is a message that is inappropriate for a town that depends upon visitors, for one thing, to make its bread and butter. Yeah. It is also so much in defiance of the values that were important when this was the cradle of the colony and when people came here for a more egalitarian life. Mm-hmm. So we have an opportunity. We have an opportunity to tell the whole story of the history of our town and county, which would include the story of the Civil War, of course. Now, the largest plantations in the South were not in this area. There were a few large plantations in this area. There were significant numbers of people enslaved in this area, in this town. There were also free blacks. Both the emancipated former slaves and the free blacks in that era after the Civil War, when the white elite, my ancestors, did not like it that black people could now vote and serve in government at all. When they decided they better suppress this with such things as the putting up the statue, but more significantly, of course, the voting laws that were enacted then, they were acting in defiance of the values that were important to this place being founded in the first place. And we would have the opportunity to tell that if we put this statue in, and we can, there were veterans who believed in a cause who died in the Civil War. Yes, that happens in every war. And their story could be told along with this longer lasting story. So we have an opportunity to tell a whole story of that particular war and its aftermath unto our present time. And of course, in recent decades, this area was very important in the civil rights movement. Golden Frinks lived right here, and his home is our newest state historic site, and so it is an important part of the story we tell that be celebrated.
If you're just joining us, we're broadcasting live from Edenton, North Carolina, discussing the controversy surrounding the Confederate statue located in downtown Edenton. My guests include Reverend John Shannon, pastor of Providence Missionary Baptist Church and a member of the Edenton Human Relations Commission, and Susan Ingalls, founder and owner of From the Mountain, a company that has worked with artisans around the world to get their skills and products to new markets. She is a member of the Reconciliation Group of Edenton United Methodist Church and the Move the Monument Coalition Edenton Shawan. We asked for representation from the North Carolina Division United Daughters of the Confederacy, the North Carolina Division Sons of the Confederate Veterans, and the Colonel William F. Martin Camp 1521, which is a local unit from the Confederate Veterans Camp near Edenton. As they are in litigation against the town of Edenton, they opted to have their attorney, Ed Phillips, speak for them. He is located in Tennessee, and his schedule would not allow him to be with us in person. So Another View producer Lisa Godley interviewed him earlier this week, and we have been sharing his comments during the show. And I want to go to his comment now because Lisa asked him a similar question in terms of what does it mean if the statue is removed?
We understand, this is an inanimate object. Some people earnestly believe it holds power and sway over them. And I empathize with that, and I feel badly. However, I think instead of removing history or moving it someplace else where it's not really going to be seen, it's better to place other monuments honoring those who have either never been seen or heard in the public forum in terms of memorialization, or who have been forgotten and nobody really wants to talk about them, which is unfortunate. So, for example, in Chowan County, as I understand, based on the history, there were 12 freedmen who fought in the Revolutionary War, and one of them, I believe, I've heard this and seen documentation that he was in the Continental Army. And so, these are men, African-American men, who should be honored, and they're not. And to me, that is not telling the full story of history or the full arc of history. And it's unfair for the memory of those men and for their descendants and for the broader community, whether it's the African-American community or, the white community within the area, to not have that presence available to them and that monument available to them. And to me, having children of color being able to go to a park or the county courthouse, et cetera, wherever they would place a monument like that, to be able to see somebody who resembles them and understand the history and their connection to this larger, thing, if you want to use that term, called America, this nation that, has had an arc of history that has been good, indifferent, bad, glorious, and horrific.
So his solution would be add more monuments. Don't take down the monument that's there. Your response?
Okay, so, and we talked about that in our group as well. And so we kind of looked at it like, to put something different besides something that's sending a bad signal doesn't, it's like the good thing that you put up is going to make the bad thing better. We kind of looked at it that way. And then again, as a Human Resource Commission, we kind of looked at all of those different kind of options about putting some other things up there, but not leaving that particular statue there. One of the members in the community talked about, putting something out there that that displays water, and that water kind of, speaks about a calmness in people, water fountain, that kind of thing. But to leave it there and to put something else beside it, to say that it's okay, and that you put something else beside it, we weren't.
You weren't interested in that. Okay, let's go to our audience. Do we have any questions, Lisa? Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, now we can.
How would they like moving grave markers in the cemetery? The monument represents thousands that did not return.
Your response? I'll start with you, Susan.
Grave markers in the cemetery that adjoins the location, the 6th Street location that the Human Relations Commission has recommended for the statue to be moved to, a beautiful little area of town-owned property beside Filbert's Creek. In that cemetery, there are numerous Confederate veterans buried, and they do have those iron crosses marking their graves. So the moving this statue to that vicinity would be restoring the idea of its being about veterans. I want to tell you that my great-grandmothers had to do with putting it up. They were part of the UDC at the time, and they, one of them...
UDC means United
Daughters of the Confederacy at that time, and one of them, Rebecca Anderson Collins Wood, said to her daughter, my grandmother, Rebecca Wood Drain, said, when the last Confederate veteran dies, get out of this organization. She saw this shift from taking care of old men who had fought for a cause, whether because they believed in it or because they were conscripted. She saw a shift from taking care of poor old men to being divisive in a way she didn't approve of. And my grandmother did get out of the UDC when the last veteran died. I think that if we want this statue to be about veterans, we need to put it where that can be told.
Okay.
Which is in the cemetery.
Okay.
or adjoining it on that lovely little piece of property that the town owns.
Lisa, do we have any other questions or comments from the audience?
Okay. I'm Michael Dean. I'm a member of the Martin Camp Sons of Confederate Veterans. We have been picketing these wokeism people down here for almost a year. That memorial is a collective headstone for over 48,000 North Carolinians, white and black, veterans that died and didn't come back. Some are buried in Antietam,
Are you saying?
Northern Virginia.
Let me ask you one question real
Okay.
quick. You said white and black Confederate veterans?
Yes, ma'am. I'll name you a name, and you can Google it and look it up. His name is Benjamin H. Gray. When the war broke out, he enlisted in the Confederate Navy. He served right over here at Plymouth, North Carolina, on the CSS Albemarle at the Battle of Plymouth. After the Civil War, he moved to Bertie County, where he was native, and became pastor of the Indian Woods Baptist Church. So this is just as much his memorial as it is all these white folks. And I'm looking around this room, and I'm thinking, I feel a little bit like what Custer felt at the Little Bighorn. And a lot of what has been said here, a lot of it, has been a bunch of malarkey, okay? How many people have walked Beaver Hill Cemetery and looked for Confederate headstones? How many are there? 3. There are 3 that are identifiable by those markers you talked about.
Okay.
They wanted to put it on 6th Street, which is all the way at the back side of the cemetery where nobody would see it. Okay?
Okay.
And so this is about veterans. Now, look it up. U.S. Code Title 38, Chapter 15, subsection L, line 1501 says, Confederate soldiers and sailors are veterans. They're not U.S. veterans, they're Confederate veterans. Not until the 14th Amendment did people of North Carolina, citizens of North Carolina, become citizens of the United States. Until the 14th Amendment, everybody who lived in Virginia was a citizen of Virginia, not the United States. Maryland, they were a citizen of Maryland, not the United States. The 14th Amendment made everybody citizens of the United States.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
So this is about veterans.
Okay.
Now, hold on. I got one more thing to say.
And then we need to make sure we have time for everybody else to
I'm a
respond.
Vietnam veteran.
Okay.
All right? It's been 150 years since this time. 100 years from now, somebody gets offended by that black wall with 58,000 names of my brothers and sisters on it. I would hope that somebody would stand up and, from my brothers and sisters who are on that wall, thank God I'm not on that wall, okay? And I'm all about veterans. That's what it is, veterans, okay? And thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Dean. I appreciate that. Now, my research that I've done, and you can answer this question also from a historical perspective, but my understanding is that black people were not allowed to become soldiers or sailors in the Confederate Army. They did not. My understanding from reading and studying the history is that, first of all, they said, as a matter of fact, while I look for the exact quote, they said that when they decided to finally come up with a black regiment, the war was just about over, so it never was formed. They were there to serve as servants and to their slave owners.
Yes.
So they were not soldiers, and a lot of them did not get pensions. A few did, but most of them did not.
Yes,
Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes, they were in roles of service. It was called.
Yep.
Yes.
Others who would like to comment? Yes.
Ms. Heath, and thank you for coming to Edenton. And I just can't let Mr. Dean's statement go just like that. I'm a veteran too, and for sure, when I was in the Navy Reserves, we did not study anything about the Confederates being U.S. military men because the Confederates were against United States. They were not a part of the United States, and they were never granted proper, full veteran status. And right now there are issues in Arlington Cemetery where they're taking down Confederate statues and maybe rethinking moving some graves. Anyway, here in Edenton, why must we have this statue there if it doesn't mean white supremacy? There are many people in this community who are afraid to speak out because they'll lose their jobs, lose their housing, or be thought of as rebel rousers, as a police officer came to me to say once, because I've been moving with this and organizing and speaking out. So even speaking out now, you know, it's possible my job could be on the line. So there is threat in the community for blacks to speak up. There is not equality in this community. North Edenton looks like a blighted place, while down here is beautiful. So I'm asking the wealthy, powerful in the town to have empathy and understand we're not trying to destroy your history, but relocate it and give a history that is for all people most of the time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Other comments from the audience? Hi there.
Kathy. We were talking about education and history. So what I want to say is that in the 60s in Virginia, my history was really biased. And my history book said most slaves were treated fairly. How do we educate people who do not know the real history of this country, who never heard of the Wilmington Massacre, for example? They say we are trying to erase history, but what is the true history? I think education is key.
I agree.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I agree. I think education is key, and people come to Edenton to learn history. Yeah. People come attracted to historic sites here, so we have a huge opportunity to build out the education that we tell. You know, the Wilmington Massacre was a pivotal event. Even closer to here, there was a Plymouth Massacre, which is the kind of thing we in this town and in this region could be telling about, and it would make a difference in what we understand about the communities that we are building every day with every conversation we have.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to add that, you know, through this, the monument issue, I've been enlightened. You know, I've read some books. I read a book on Soul City about Floyd McKissick. He was just trying to build a city where people could be independent. They would be able to prosper and, enjoy, the things that are promised to us in the Constitution. But they were, but he was kind of hindered in every different area that he could with the government. Threats from the Ku Klux Klan and those kind of things. I kind of read a book about Paula Murray. You know, she was just trying to be who she was as a social activist, and the white constitution was coming at her from all different kind of angles, and people, when she moved up somewhere, it was legislation, because there's when you move up in society, there are some places where prejudice can be put against you to keep you from moving further. I say this in that I joined the Navy in 1973. I joined on a delay program. And my options was to be a service person, be a cook, or some other things. But I wasn't going in that way. But I kind of did what I need to do to get an A school so that I could be a radio and communication. Mm-hmm. And it was just a few of us in that. And you can see those kind of things in our communities, in our jobs, where people live, that, it's just a, racism and prejudices and things, in the way to block, people from being who they can be. Mm-hmm.
Susan, the Move the Monument Coalition, Edenton, Shawan, and Emancipate North Carolina put up a billboard. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty prominent. It says, "Welcome to Edenton. We apologize for the Confederate statue. We're working on it." Mm-hmm. Talk to me about what was behind putting that up, and what's been the reaction from people as they drive by and see it?
Well, we are working on it, and that is part of working on it. In our conversation today, we've heard that there is frustration with the town council for not acting on their the resolution they made over a year ago to remove the statue, and that resolution specifically was to remove it from its current location. As we said, it was moved to its current location within 24 hours of making the decision to put it there. This town council has not moved that promptly, and still, though they generously give us an update every town council meeting, it's usually an announcement that they're working on it.
Right.
And so there is frustration that action has not yet been taken. The town does own storage facilities. It could be put in storage within 24 hours, and that is why we put up the billboard, because we know that it could be done promptly, and it's our part of working on it.
Lisa, I see you have someone there who wants to speak.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Bob Kirby. I'm chairman of the Chowan County Board of Commissioners. Now, I know you all are broadcasting in Hampton Roads. In fact, I'm a native of Norfolk. I'm from where you all are broadcasting. The county commissioners is like a city council, except it's for the entire county. I need to correct a few things, please. Ms. Ingalls, it's not 50-50. Chowan County has 2/3 of the population, and the town of Edenton has about 1/3. You can go and check it and look at your census figures. And also, the white-black ratio in Chowan County, it's 63% white, 33% black. In the town, it's 41% white, 52% black. I'm not challenging you personally. The figures speak for themselves. The long and the short, though, is that back in December of 2018, when I was first elected to the commission, I swore an oath to uphold the laws of North Carolina and of course, the United States. And I swore a similar oath back in 1978 when I was commissioned as an ensign in the United States Navy. Two oaths, very similar, both very relevant here. The one in North Carolina, when I was a commissioner, the laws of North Carolina say this memorial cannot be removed or relocated except under very specific circumstances, which the town council has not laid forward before the Board of Commissioners or before the citizens of Edenton. They just said, we're going to move it. They haven't said where and under what specific circumstances. And the laws of North Carolina, General Statute 100-2.1, is very explicit what can be done. You can't put it off in a cemetery somewhere. It's not allowed. Right. The county commission is trying to work with the town. We've been trying to work with the town, but we're not going to run out in front of an issue like this because it doesn't do anybody any good if you break the law.
So, Mr. Kirby,
Yes.
my understanding is that the town asked the county to take the statue. Is that correct?
Yes, they did.
Okay, and you all refused. Is that correct?
That's not exactly correct.
Okay, what
is
did you
correct
decide?
is, first, they can't prove they own it. How can you say to me, take this, if you can't prove to me that you own it? If your car is parked in the parking lot, if your car's out there and you say, take my car, can you prove you own it? If you can't, I would be kind of dumb for me to take your keys for something that you haven't proven to me that you own. They cannot prove that they own this statue in the first place.
So that's the official reason why. I'm just asking the question because I was curious.
Let me preface and say, I'm speaking now as an individual citizen. I can't speak for this board. It's a 7-member board, and I'm not here speaking for the Board of Commissioners. I'm speaking as Bob Kirby. Okay. I am the chair of the county commission, not speaking in that capacity. However, I will say, the town has not proven they own it.
Okay.
And number one. And number two, why would we take something and then them say, in order for you to take this, you've got to move it. In order for you to take this, you've got to break North Carolina law. I'm going to say, no, thank you. I'm not going to do that because I have sworn on a Bible not to break the law. So there's a main issue right there. The other one is...
hold on. Let me just ask you one quick question
ma'am.
then. So there are laws, and there are certain
ma'am.
places where the statues can be moved. I've read about that. What allowed the law to work when it was moved from the courthouse to its current location versus...
The law didn't exist then, ma'am. The law was not on the books then. It is on the books now. It was not on the books in 1961, which was, by the way, the Civil War centennial. But that's another story. That was the beginning of the Civil War. 1861, 1961, that's when the monument got moved. There's two sides to all of the discussion.
So the laws about moving the statues were not in place at that time?
No, ma'am, they were not. No, ma'am, they were not.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. And just to be very brief, I took a second oath, and that was as an ensign. I feel an obligation to my fellow veterans, and that includes these veterans, to not turn my back on them.
Why is moving the statue turning your back on the veterans, though? I mean, if you put it in
We
a
can't
location...
move it anyway.
Well, I understand that. But my point being, if the statue were to be moved to a location that was agreeable to both sides, why would that be turning your backs on veterans?
Ms. Ham, the Moving Monument Coalition has said they don't want it to be moved anywhere. They want it to be gone. They don't want it on public property.
No, we didn't.
They said it. They don't want it on public property.
This gentleman right here actually said it this morning.
I'm sorry, sir. We cannot hear you. You're not on mic when we are on the radio.
They
so
don't want it.
if
They
you
don't want it
mind.
relocated at all. And that's okay. I understand. Let me say something. I love everybody in this room. I really do. We're all brothers and sisters in Christ. I love you all. But and we've got differences in opinion here. But I don't want to get into a name calling or anything like that. I just see this thing is there for the
to honor the veterans.
Exactly, and it is a memorial to those veterans. And I think we owe it to them to continue to honor them.
Thank you very much for your comments. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Let you all react.
I just want
and we got about 9 minutes left in the show. So
I just want to say that it's on the record that the Human Resource Commission, we asked that it be relocated. We didn't ask that it be destroyed. We asked that it be relocated, that it be taken down. It wasn't we weren't asked to decide where to put it, but to take it down from where it's at this point.
So that was your recommendation to relocate.
To take it down. Yes.
Relocate it
From where it's at.
Yeah, and the place where the Human Relations Commission recommended it be relocated is appropriate for many reasons, as I've said. It is also important that the Human Relations Commission's recommendation be respected. The town has given the Human Relations Commission a set of issues to address, and the inequalities in our community do remain important issues to be addressed. If we don't listen to their recommendations, what's the use of having commissioned them?
And let me ask you this also, John, since you're on the commission. Has this issue stopped you all from working on other issues? You said this rose to the top,
yes.
Which indicates to me that there are things beneath it that need to be addressed.
We stayed bogged down with that. Dr. Bond helped me out 9 months or more, and we never got to any other issues because of that until some persons started to decide to get off, because seemingly that we weren't going anywhere, just dealing with that. So yes, it has taken up a lot of time, and we did have a recommendation come to us, wherein they found a plot of land that they could put it on, but not from something that we discovered, but a person who was the liaison between the Human Relations Commission came up with some land that was private property.
All right, real quickly, and then we want to wrap it up.
I just want to make one comment about this being a veterans memorial. It is certainly a memorial to Confederate soldiers. I do not see it as a memorial to U.S. soldiers. My understanding of history was that the Civil War was about the secession of southern states to defend the abominable evil of slavery. And there was a war fought over that. The soldiers who fought against that premise were United States soldiers. The soldiers who fought in defense of that premise were secessionists. They were Confederate soldiers. They had abandoned the United States to defend slavery. I have an ancestor who fought for the North. I can't speak for him, but I imagine that he would think it is absolutely ridiculous and a horrendous idea that the men who fought against him, tried to kill him, are judged as the equals of American United States veterans. I just can't accept that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's good.
So here's the question. What do we do to solve this? What has to happen in order for Edenton to come together and there be a resolution to this? I'll start with you, Susan.
I think conversations like this
Yes.
help a lot. I think it helps to have public conversations and for us to have conversations in private. So I really appreciate Mr. Kirby saying he loves us all, because loving all of us, we can have conversations and address issues of injustice in our community in such a way that I think it would become obvious that the statue being in such a prominent location would not be appropriate any longer.
Okay. And I'll say that, as a pastor in this town, the people have came to me to kind of get, the three different groups together. And, we can't even come together to sit down at the table to talk about it. And so the discussion, community.
So you've invited the three groups that have sued? Is that who you're talking
no,
about?
I'm talking about the Human Resources Commission, the town of
Commission.
the town of Edenton,
Okay.
and the persons who are part of the coalition for moving the monument, as well as the opposition to come and sit down and talk.
Okay.
You
And you have been able to pull everybody together.
It's just been, putting you off. You're supposed to have the meeting here, and then it don't happen. Different dates, and we just like to just sit down and talk, see where we're at.
I know we had a county commissioner here. Do we have any town council people in the audience by any chance? Okay, we are out of time, unfortunately. I am so sorry. That's the frustration of what happens as we get to these types of conversations. But I was just curious, when you talk to town council members, what did they tell you about why they haven't made a decision or moved on this?
Well, it's different things like, the meeting get to the place where they will give some input about it, but there's no time for you to dialogue with them about it.
And I would say I have not, in conversation with any town council person, gotten a good reason that action could not be taken immediately. The recommendation that the Human Relations Commission made is 100% legal and could have been acted on immediately. And I still wonder, why not? Why not?
Do you think that where are we with the lawsuit? Do you
now,
know?
Now, the lawsuit is, the lawyers are talking to each other now. And so once December came and that suit was filed, the town had an excuse.
Okay. Susan Ingalls, Reverend John Shannon, thank you so very, very much for joining us. Audience, thank you so much for being here with us today. We truly appreciate it. And Another View will stay on top of this issue, and we will keep you posted. So if you guys don't mind, we'd like to come back at some point in time to continue the conversation. Absolutely. And those of you listening on the radio, thank you so much for joining us today. Now, if you'd like to hear this show again or share it with a friend, please visit us on our website, anotherviewradio.org, and you can download the podcast. And don't forget to sign up for our eView newsletter. It's a once-a-week reminder of upcoming shows. Next week on Another View, how social determinants of health impact your heart. It's Another View on Health with cardiologist Dr. Keith Newby. Our theme music is an original composition created especially for Another View by Jay Sennett. A very special thank you to the venue on Water Street for hosting our program today. Thank you to Another View producer Lisa Godley, our outstanding audio engineers Jordan Christie and Victor Bowen, and to Dr. Barry Graham, who monitored things back for us at the WHRV studios. Thank you, Edenton, North Carolina, for your hospitality. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. Let's get together again next Thursday at noon for Another View.
Support comes from Hampton Roads Community Foundation, partnering with donors from all walks of life to improve southeastern Virginia through grants, scholarships, and leadership initiatives. Learn more at hamptonroadscf.org.